one. Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Down Unders. Another week, another amazing win for both our clubs. Brody and my brother, how are you feeling? We are up there at the top of the competition, and the Warriors also up there. Same wins, bro. We're coming up to a massive game coming up very shortly too. How are you feeling, bro? How's the week been? Yeah, how's everything?
Feeling a lot better than Chris. Where are you, brother? Shout out. Feeling really good, brother. Another good win. Another really good, solid performance. And can't complain. But your boys, brother, absolutely outstanding win.
Incredible, bro. Incredible. And we will get into that. But obviously, you can tell I'm really, really happy and really excited to get into the show for that sort of talk. We will touch on, guys, today in the show, a couple of, our teams and that, some of the bigger games over the weekend. Go for our team of the week and the segments that you all love. Then we're going to move over to our State of Origin 2-game preview before the game. A lot of talking points, especially on the Queensland side of things. New South Wales, a couple of little talking points coming out at the moment. But at the moment, they're looking red hot to go back-to-back wins to lock up a series. And to finish off, guys, make sure you keep up your Supercoach chat questions ready to go. Me and Brody are ready to go for Supercoach. Still State of Origin rounds, still a lot to talk about. There's a lot of trade options that a lot of people going through. Are we going to kind of sway you away from trading away Nathan Cleary? Maybe. We'll wait and see, because I know that's a hot topic going around. But you ready to go, my bro?
Ready to go, brother.
All right, let's start it off with my Warriors, bro. Let's start it with my Warriors, because I feel like a massive statement win from my boys, in my opinion, anyway. To start this year, we've gotten close wins, where there's even been wins where we've blown out sides and then they've come back fairly close on us. I feel like that was probably our most dominant win over the season. And for me, I'm taking it out as a statement game. Our young kids stepped up without Mitch Barnett, without Wade Egan. What's your thoughts on the Warriors right now? They exceeded expectations from where they were before, but did you expect a game like this out of the Warriors at this point of the season against the Sharks outfit that should have been coming in fairly desperate?
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head, brother. Fairly desperate Sharks team. Should have turned up a lot better than that. I didn't really see you guys winning that game, let alone by that scoreline. So yeah. I'll eat my words there on saying Sharks 1-12. But yeah, just disappointing from the Sharks, man. Getting beaten the week before by the Roosters and then into a bye and then to turn out that performance. But hey, credit where credit is due. The Warriors really wanted that win. The young boys just turned up. That next man up mentality is there. And to blow Cronulla away like that at Shark Park, which Melbourne couldn't do, that is a massive statement piece, brother.
Yeah, still a little bit of season to go. What do you think the chances for the Warriors to be in that top four sort of realm by this year? I feel like top 8 should be within our grasp. I think a couple of wins should lock us into a top 8 at least. But, obviously from the first expectations of the side, where do you now sit the Warriors in the competition as in top 4? And do you see them a little bit more as a premiership threat, what you actually kind of saw earlier than the season?
100%, brother. Like, consistency is the main thing you need. And I know you need big game experience, and finals are different, and that's where Melbourne will have the upper hand. But hey, consistency, man, and the most 3 consistent teams at the moment are Raiders, Warriors, Bulldogs. And I know Melbourne haven't lost too many games, but they're just that slight bit off consistency more so than those teams. So yeah, there's no reason I don't see you guys definitely finishing top 8. I would say 80% sure you guys will finish top 6. And I definitely think it's a good 50-50 to finish top 4. I don't see why he's can't at this stage.
Yeah, very excited to see.
Injuries don't seem to be worrying you guys. It's just, that next man up mentality at this stage.
100%. And that was our big worry from last year. Like, we had a horrid injury run last year. Not as bad as the Rabbitohs, but we were second in the competition. And then there was a little bit of daylight between third and onwards from that. And we just couldn't really get into the groove. And I felt like there was a little bit more that was going on behind the surface than people actually knew with the Warriors. And I feel like this year, we've just become more connected, and it's no doubt that the 3 best teams in the competition right now are the most connected sides in the competition, right? Like, every one of these teams are playing like an actual team instead of like a superstar team getting put together and try to mesh themselves into a superstar sort of team, right? You talk about the Broncos, you talk about the Sharks, you talk about the Melbourne Storm, even for other aspects as well. Your thoughts on that sort of aspect of the game? Like, I think it's a lot more important now when you look at how the Panthers got their success over years, and I think teams have been doing their due diligence now to really research and how to build from within and develop and build a connection. How vital do you reckon that is to the outcomes of all these results from these top three sides this year?
I think it's just every player playing on the same level. You know, it's not, he's a superstar, he doesn't have to do this training, he doesn't have to do that training, this guy over here has to work harder. Nah, it's like they all get in there, they all do the same amount of work at training, they all put in 100% at training, they all know each other's role as well. So it is next man up, move around, still fill that spot. And I think that is huge, brother. And we've seen it before, you know, that we were just talking about it before the show on that really bad Queensland side that year. And they, you know, they rolled a superstar Blues squad just because they were more connected. It's as simple as that. So sometimes it's not about how much individual talent you have in the team. It's how much connection there is in that club, how much culture is in that club, and it's really showing. You know, Ricky has his boys humming, and you know that, you know, Webby and Serraldo have that Panthers mentality, and that's really showing through for our clubs at the moment.
And last question before I want to just quickly touch on the Sharks as well. When you look at the top three coaches in the competition right now, and as I said before, there's still a lot more games to go to, but when we're talking of coach of the year, I know Geraldo missed out last year, but you reckon if he gets top of the competition, you reckon he should lock that up? Ricky Stewart would be roundabouts and Webby would be roundabouts. What would it take for either of those guys to probably win coach of the year, in your opinion, for each of those sides?
I think it's just whoever finishes top should get that, in my opinion. If no matter what you've done before, like, unless you've brung your team from completely out of the eight in the last 4 years and you've come in and bang, you've gone top of the table or top four, whatever, coach of the year should realistically just go to who's on top, in my opinion.
The best coach. Yeah, 100%, 100%. And moving over to a team that looking a little bit less connected in moments, and I argue the balance is a bit out of whack with this team here. The Sharkies. Where do you look at the Sharkies right now? Like, do they still just have the same symptoms that they've had for the last couple of years? Do they look a little bit worse off? Do they look even a little bit better? I guess, I don't know. But what's the symptoms to the Sharkies right now that you reckon they need to change, in your opinion?
It's the same, brother. It's just the same. It's the same as we've expected out of the Sharks before. If they don't score the first 2 tries, they don't want to be on. They don't want to arm wrestle, and they roll over. It's as simple as that. For me to fix the Sharks, I would be getting in there and I would probably either drop either Nico Hines or Braden Trindle. It's not working. It's a clash of halves. You don't have one leader out there. You pointed out a few points in that game as well, where you think they're going wrong and guys overcalling each other. I think Fitzgibbon needs to make a hard call and play Atkinson as one of the halves and one of the others, and that's it.
Yeah, I think like it's prevalent in many sports around the world too, where I feel like you've got to have sort of a key organizer, right? A guy that will get you to the points of the field. You know, it just kind of, it's kind of like, remember when we were talking when the 2 referees were in the part of the competition and you start to get inconsistencies with the calls in that sense. And I know inconsistencies are still there with a single referee, but at least you get a dictation of the game. You kind of sort of can understand, you know, with the one referee where you had 2, you kind of had 2 different interpretations. So really you're sitting there going like, where did they come up with that one, this and that, right? I feel like it's very similar for sport and like rugby league sides. When you have a halfback that dictates everything, as you would know, being a halfback growing up, it's a lot easier being the sole man out there being like, get to this point, I want my 6 out here at the back of shape, I want this and that, than maybe a 6 next to you going, like when you're going, I want to get here, then your 6 is going, nah, I want my edge here, I want him hitting this this post, and we're playing off the back of that. And I feel like that's the problem with the Sharkies at the moment. And I think just to echo that point even more is the touches of Britton Nikita this year. One of their big strike players of years past when it was Moylan and Nico Hines, when he was running that lead line, hitting that tram line sort of offense, Nico can play short side off the back of that. This year, it just feels like they're hitting a post for Nico, and then Nico's reshaping on one side, and then he's getting an overcall from Trindle that's going the opposite way, and then he's thrown the whole set out of whack. And it kind of saw that way with the Warriors the longer the game went on.
100%. And if the Sharks are just all over the place, let's put it that way. They don't have a dominant half of like a Nathan Cleary that owns the ball, and he sweeps both sides, and he fixed Dylan Edwards on that right side, Blaze on that left side. That's how you need to run it if you've got a dominant half. Right now, they've got both of them trying to be dominant. They're switching sides. They're not got, their fullback playing the sweeper. Nico, you own that right side. Trindle, you own that left side. That's the way you go if you want two dominant halves, and then, you set your side and worry about your side only. If you wanted to go that route, and then you play whatever you want on your set. So you would have sets, a set where you're getting to a certain point on the right and then targeting the left, or you get a set where you go to left and then target the right. At the moment, they don't have that. It's overcalling, Trindle sweeping to the right, Hines is sweeping to the left, and Will Kennedy, I don't see him get involved in backline plays at all. They're just, they're literally all over the place, and I don't know why. I really don't know why, where they've gone away from Nico Hines' Daly M season on where he just owned it.
Yeah, and I feel like, Matty Moylan probably was a little bit more of a loss in that sort of sense because he was 100%. Able to play second fiddle, right? And he was be like, all right, Nico, you do everything else and I'll play off the back of anything that you throw up. And it makes their shape look a lot better. As I said, like with Nico, I feel like he's got to be, I always look at him as like a NBA point guard, right? He'll set a screen, or let's say NBA, they set a screen where they want to be. They've got their shooters outside of him and he can play whatever he can. So with Nico, the Sharkies' offense usually came from tramline to tramline. They played a little bit wider than most sides. So they would get like Nikita hitting that real hard line on that tramline and cause the action for the numbers to either go one way or the other. And Nico will play either a short side, which he was the most dominant half in the competition playing short side, which that's going completely missing now. And then, or he'll reset to an open side and play, Moylan and play Will Kennedy out the back of shape and cause that open side to be overnumbered. And it dominated like us a couple of years back when we had to do that big victory in 2023. They blew it out to a 20-point game in like a good 20 minutes just playing that offense. And I feel like they've taken the sting out of that, and they're just playing now where it's just playing sideways to sideways. There's no set. There's no dominance through any point of the field. And people expected Adam was going to be the guy that kind of spearheaded the attack to go more straighter and play through the middle. It just seems now that it's not really going that way for the Sharkies due to those certain things.
No, that's 100% right. And, Brayley's doing his job out of hooker. He's still setting up nice tries. He's getting to points. It's their halves. And yes, to answer your question, Towns, they're definitely not in sync.
Nah, definitely not. As I said, it's good. It's got to come down to one guy's got to be the voice out there, because when a team's played with like 3 or 4 different guys that are calling everything, there's too many chefs in the kitchen already. And it's just showing. It showed with the Broncos to start the season with Ben Hunt and Adam Reynolds. It showed that way. It's showing again in this sort of sense of the word, like, with these two, Trindle and Nico. Sometimes it works, and when it works, sometimes, fuck yeah, it looks great. But consistency, it won't come from that.
No, and it's a little different to where like Melbourne, yes, Munster and Hughes are both dominant ball carriers, but you'll never see Hughes sweep to that left side. You'll never see Munster really sweep to that right side. That's Pappenhausen's job. And then those guys own their sides and worry about their sides.
And then would you agree in that sort of offense, like Harry Grant's the vital key to that offense, to where he's like, well, I'm shifting it long to your side, you're setting this shape, and he's pretty much just combining with them all together.
Exactly.
You look at the Warriors, I think a lot of it comes down to Wade Egan as well, where he's getting Luke Metcalf and that around to the park. And there's a lot of sides that play off the back of that. Like, you got Brayley there. Maybe Brayley could be that sole member to really take a big step up in that level. But like, when you got those other boys overcalling your players, I think that's where it's been inconsistencies for the Sharkies.
100%.
Yeah, right there with you, bro. So enough about my Warriors, because your team's at the top of the competition, brother. And, everyone's like, I feel like whenever you get a team like yours, right, that is gone very dominant, it's popped up out of nowhere, people are just waiting for some sort of a downfall. They're waiting for the moment to everyone to be like, the Dogs aren't as good as what they say they are, or they're not as good as what they are, but they keep turning over win after win, and they keep strangling sides out of the competition. The Eels were valiant on Monday night. But you just kept turning up to your game plan, and it done a great job. Shout out to Lockie Galvin, first win, first game, first try. The Doggies, bro, they just keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah, look, people love to hate. People love to hate, great, and it's as simple as that. And Parramatta really did. They really fought in that first half, and they really wanted to win that game. They really did try hard. And I'm so proud of the boys, of the fact that we don't go away from our game plan, even if we don't score. And, they kept on trying to shit on us. Oh, they've had 35 tackles and we're at 12 all, 35 tackles inside Eels is 20 and we're at 12 all, and one of those were from an intercept. Yeah, but we don't try and score off every play. That's not the game plan. Like, the commentators need to, yes, it doesn't look good statistically, but at the end of the game, look how we got there. We ran in a try every set we got in there. Like, it's not about winning the game in the first 20, 30 minutes. And that's what the commentators seem to want to happen. And then, you know, like, even after the game, you know, Galvin won. If we lost, it would have been Galvin's fault. We win. They still found something to pick on, like Sexton saying he wasn't even sure why he was moving to 9. Like, they tried to make a story out of that. And I'm just like, get real. Like, get the fuck over it. We won. The kid scored a try. Everything continued to roll on, like, for the doggies as it did. Like, the media just love to hate us at the moment, and they really want to keep picking at a 19-year-old kid. Like, go find some other news article. Like, it's done. It's buried. Move on.
Yeah. And there's one quick thing I did want to touch on with Lockie Galvin. Willie Mason came out on Levels podcast I was watching just recently, and he was saying, you know, the growth in the kid when they first got him over with the Dogs, he reckons the first day he saw him, Serrato said, all right, he's coming for a reserve grade. And then during the week, he went, okay, all right, he's picking this up really, really quickly. He got to a level to where he goes, all right, he's starting off the bench and we'll see what he's got in the game. And he's proving himself so quickly. So people have got to look at that, and he's an incredible talent. Like, I hate the whole aspect that when a team loses, it's all on the aspect of this one guy that's come in and all that sort of stuff. The media's always got to find a way to go about these sort of things. But I think that for your point as well, I think there just needs to be more understanding around rugby league. I still think that there's a lot of people don't understand the way teams will attack, they defend these days. People still look at the old school ways of, like, you know, how things go. Like Willie pointed out also in Levels podcast why he hates listening to commentary when you got your forwards, right? When a kick goes down the field, the forwards, you know, they take that time for have a little bit of a rest while making their way back. They stay around the 30 because their wingers and that are going to get them back to the 30, and that gets them back into the lineup. But when commentators see that, they go, oh, that teams must be getting tired. The middle's getting tired because they're taking a rest. Yeah, brother, I hate that so much.
That is the game plan.
Oh, that I hate. When
there is no point the front rowers running back on side and getting in the way of their backs. Their backs have got to own those first 3 carries minimum, and they should be getting 30 meters minimum. If not, they've failed to do their job, and more than likely, as soon as the forwards get on side, they're going to have to chase a kick back downfield.
I like when journalists do this as a job, or commentators do this as a job, you'd think that they'll look into the sport a little bit more, or a little bit deeper to understand these sort of things. But I guess they probably run by news stories and this and that, and they say things that end up going that way of clicks. And let's say if they're right in that moment, they're right. But like, I just wish there was a little bit more extra effort in these areas. Like the one I used to hate was, you know, in game, Vossi used to be the worst for it at the moment, where, you know, teams are cage kicking into corner. So they'll get a kick up, and instead of contesting that kick, like the Panthers were known for it, they were shaping their defense off the back of it, caging him into a corner, and they were getting back into their defensive shapes. And he was like, why are they not contesting the kick? It's like the variables of the contesting of the kick, and like sometimes can do it well and do it very well in that, but there's inconsistencies in that. It frustrates me so much. And this coming from a kid, right? I never hit anywhere close to being like a first grade or anything like that. I never made rep teams growing up and that. Played limited footy comparatively to, like, let's say Brodie here we got next to it. And even off the back of that, like, just talking about Mrs. Cousins. But I learnt from the game just watching years and years, asking questions of coaches, understanding in that sort of sense. Probably wasn't the best player, but I understood it in the other sense of, like, listening to people. Like, how hard is it when you've been a journalist or a commentator for that many years to kind of get a grasp of what the game is out there?
100%. And the worst part is it's mostly ex-NRL players that are making these calls. Like Michael Innes is the fucking worst. And then just, like, to be a professional rugby league player, like, I credit them straight away to be able to block all this noise out and not lash out at the media more often, like Spencer did with JT, or Walsh did about the critics of Mam. Like, it's football. We don't need to be dramatizing it. We don't need to be getting into these guys' lives. All that's doing is putting extra unnecessary pressure on them. And I'm glad that they don't feel it. They probably don't read it, but it'd still be so annoying, man. Like, that'll take a lot to get used to. Like, I would hate to have to try and bite my tongue when guys are shitting on you. You know what I mean? Like Latrell, I heard Latrell called a Nasta out at the pub as well. Did you see that? And
yeah.
I don't blame him, because as Tans just said there, like, Nasta was the main one trying to start shit with the whole Sexton not knowing where to go. And And that really annoyed me as well. That whole time on NRL 360, they didn't talk to any of the Bulldogs boys about how good they played that game. It was all about Galvin. And I'm like, cool, fair. It's a new, shiny new toy. But Matt Burton probably played the best we've seen him play in a long time. And now he's just got another Origin call up for it. No talk about it. Stephen Crichton went into that game still with his hamstring obviously wrapped or quad wrapped, his elbow wrapped from the hyperextending in Origin, and battled through that and played still outstanding and nothing. It's just I'm getting sick of the media, and it's getting to me a lot more because obviously it's our teams my team that's copping a lot of heat at the moment. But like it's just unnecessary. It really is. Like just talk real. Like I would rather listen to, Willie Mason on the podcast, Denham Kemp on his podcast, guys that just talk real about it. They don't try and put spins on it or go, this is what's happening when they have no fucking idea what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I already get over emotional from casual fans at work and stuff like that. I don't need over emotional from my media as well. I want people that can talk to me and give me proper in-depth analysis of why things are happening out there. That's what I enjoy personally. I don't care about the soap opera. The soap opera is mad fun for casual fans out there, 100%. But if we want to grow the game in that sort of aspect, I would love to see a little bit more in depth. That's why I'm loving seeing Shawnee out there. Like he gives a really good in-depth sort of analysis take, but he does it with fun too. So it's kind of really good to listen to. I want to see more out of that. Like I want to see more out of what Cooper and Matty Johns do when they have their show and they talk more in depth about their footy. I love that aspect. I hate the NRL 360s. I stopped watching it these days. I've hated all that because it's just all negative news spin, bro, just to get a click or a bait in the media. That's really what it is.
It really is. And I really like James Graham. He's so blunt, so passionate. He doesn't care if he'll cop a fine for something that he says. If it's bullshit, he'll call it bullshit.
Yep, and they're willing to take accountability too for stuff that they, maybe don't 100%. Get right to start off with, right? And that's what it comes down to, where the media in general, they're not going to call out when they've called something completely off. Like Dean Ritchie's had just this long list of stuff that he's been calling freaking that you can call him out for years, but he's never going to take accountability for any of that. So, but anyway, your doggies though, great win for Monday night, and also a massive turnout for Accor Stadium. I can't wait for this Warriors game coming up. Already saw the Warriors putting tickets out there as travel guys. If you want to jump on, come over to Australia, come to that game, because I think that's probably going to be the game of the year, especially with turnout.
Yeah, if we're sitting first and second, or even first, fourth, first, third, second, whatever, as long as we're in that top four, or even if we're not in that top four, we had two really great close games last year. It's two very defensively mined systems going at it, and if that's the new norm for the Bulldogs turnouts of that 60,000 plus, and then you add in at any Australian Warriors game a good 15,000 Warriors fans, if not more, from the games that we've been to, that's going to be an absolute sellout. The doggies are going to put on $10 tickets to get those last seats filled as well. The whole thing the Dogs are doing with the walk from the hotel with the players, it's outstanding for the game. And to see regular games selling that many tickets, it just puts other games, other clubs to shame. And it needs to change for them. And if not, they shouldn't be playing at big stadiums, because the atmosphere for a good little home ground like the Tigers filling out Belmore, Balmain, whatever you want to call it these days. That's outstanding. Whereas, unfortunately, yes, the Titans don't have a lot of fans, but they don't even, pack out Skilled Park. So,
unfortunately,
the NRL need to do something with that. But it's up to the teams as well to their media team, like the Doggies and the Warriors media team. What we see on the media and how they get their fans engaged is absolutely outstanding at the moment.
Right, I just want to quickly jump on. You said Skilled Park. That's what, fucking hell, bro. I remember those days when Gold Coast was known as that. It's Seabus now, but bro, I love that, because Rugby League Guru did a video just recently on all the stadium names and what do you still remember these stadiums at. And Skilled Park, as soon as you said it, I didn't even I just didn't bat an eyelid. I was like, yeah, Skilled Park. And I went, wait a minute, no, it's Seabus now, isn't it? I was like, fuck, there's one of those ones, right, where you just still think of it as a certain stadium. It's so crazy.
Whatever it is.
Like Brookvale with 4 Pines, it's 4 Pines now, but it's Brookie. It's always been Brookie, always will be Brookie.
It's Brookvale. It's
Marathon Stadium for Newcastle. Bro, it just, the list goes on. But I just wanted to point that out, because that's great rugby league knowledge, bro. That's crazy.
Old Lang Park, brother.
Shout out to it. And shout out to the chat here too. Tans, did you guys see the Capewell interview in Origin Camp? My goodness, they are shit. Some questions they ask. Nah, I didn't get to see the interview.
I haven't
but
seen that yet. No, I've seen the one on Munster getting asked about Cherry Evans, and like, what do you want the dude to say? Oh, Billy's a wanker for dropping DC. Like,
I know. What are you going to get out of him?
What are you fishing out of him? He's going to have to. He wants to continue on and play. He has to play. He's not going to disagree with his coach. It's a decision, and you live with it. It's time to move on.
It's just the way it goes. It's the way it goes. And the last couple of... Oh, bro, we can go on all day. The last couple I want to get through, bro, before we jump into our team of the week and get for our State of Origin preview. The Dolphins. I do want to touch on the Dolphins before the Raiders and before we jump off here. The Dolphins, I think they're really kicking into gear to being one of the more informed teams in the competition right now. Statistically, we said before when we went through our teams, they ranked pretty high up in both ends statistically. And then just add on top of that, scoring 50 on the Dragons over the weekend. They were really, really poor. Was it the weekend? Yeah, it was over the weekend. Yeah, 56 to 6. What are your thoughts on the Dolphins? Their ability this year, could they be a top 6 side in this competition by the end of the year?
Oh, I think they're going to fall short. The injuries are going to get to them, and that's not shitting on them. I 100% agree that when they're on, they are one of the most informed teams in the competition. Not to mention one of their biggest signings, and Thomas Flegler hasn't really played a game in a Dolphins jersey. Tom Gilbert is out. Maxi Plath came back and is now gone for the season again. And
Agreed.
Daniel Saifidi, is it Daniel or Jacob, whichever one of the Saifidi's brothers that they've got is gone as well now for the season. So there's 4 of their starting forward pack, and they're still turning out the way that they're turning out. They're holding wins over Melbourne, a big win over Melbourne, a big win over the Doggies. And now another massive win on the weekend. They have points in them, and they're starting to play really connected as well. They're another team that's just connected. I see a lot of Josh Kerr's Instagram stories, and a lot of boys are always going to the butcher together, having barbecues together. It's just that culture that those guys are making. And, I think they still will miss the 8 this year, in my opinion. But next year, if they could get some boys and stay injury-free, but my God, man. Outstanding.
They got a lot of talent, Isaiah Katoa and all that. And just on the back of what you just said there with the on Instagram and all that, guys, go check out Jack Bostock's TikTok. He loves his cooking and he gets all the boys over.
As well.
Bro, unreal. So, guys, go check out that content. It's unreal content and that. But I'm very, very excited to see what the Dolphins can produce because they got a lot of talent there, a lot of young talent. They're definitely going to be a team for the future, and they're growing real nicely. And just quickly, bro, the Raiders, right? Another big comeback win to get over the top of the Rabbitohs. The Rabbitohs looking like they were kind of like clicking in the gear a little bit before this game, and then the Raiders pretty much go, nah, all right, we're a top 4 side. This is what we're coming up against. Josh Papali'i getting 2 conversions as well. Should be the first choice goal kicker. Yeah. But your thoughts on the Raiders, bro? They just keep on keeping on. We kind of touched on the first 3, like the top 3 sides here, but just quickly on them.
Yeah, no, just effort, brother. Like that is the definition of a good team, is being able to take whatever comes your way. The Rabbits really looked up for that one early as well. Got out to a nice little lead, had all their players back. They were riding on high, and Canberra just snuffed that out really quick and then went on to just blow it out. The emotion got to Canberra, and they made sure that they got the win there for Papali'i, and I'm sure that would have been touched on at that halftime spray from Ricky.
Yeah, 100%. And, obviously some real big performances out there for Canberra on this one. Simi Sasangi was a big one for me that, coming on in like an unfamiliar position, but he has the speed and the skill set to play that position and just absolutely killed it over the weekend. As you know, Ethan Strange, fuck me, that kid's a player. Like he's a beast, that kid.
Yeah, him and Isaiah Katoa, man, future Origin halves for sure.
Throw them all in the mix, man. It's unreal. Did you quickly touch on the Broncos before we jump over to our team list as well? All black jerseys, bro. Did you like the look of all black jerseys? How would you feel in that?
Beautiful jerseys, 100%. Like, I don't think, like, I've seen there's hints of them getting a new logo, which is black and white, and I don't think that should be. That's not right. No. That's not them. I 100% agree what the jersey was for on the weekend, but that's not your traditional colors. No. And I think that should be, saved for a team to still come into the comp.
Yeah, that logo looks like shit too. Don't go that way.
It does look like shit.
Oh, brother, that was that. Yeah, I hope they don't go that way, especially for Broncos fans out there. Like, your logo is notorious, right? Even the old school logo, they're also is notorious in rugby league just due to the early day success that they had. Yeah, to go that way, I don't know. It just doesn't look great. It really does. It looks like Carlton Draft. It looks like Newcastle Racing. It looks like there's so many other logos that look so similar to it. And I'm just like, yeah, it's just not the Broncos.
No, definitely not. Please don't allow that, NRL. But on touching on them, yeah, look, great performance. Couple of great moves from Madge. I don't know why Corey Jensen wasn't starting all year. He killed it there last year, in my opinion. Just a defensive workhorse for 40-plus tackles a game. Never really an error in him. And Kobe Harrington's still struggling. You know, come on, fresh. Another error straight out of him. And Piakora, man, we knew what Piakora's got in him. And it's just a matter of time before he was back starting.
Well, hopefully he continues on because we need some players for Origin, which we'll touch on very, very shortly. But if he clicks into gear, he can definitely be a future guy there with Helam Lukey returning next year and stuff like that because we need these guys to come back because this is an uphill battle. But yeah, may as well, while we're touching on certain players that impacted the game, did you want to touch on anything else before we jump over?
Yeah, just quickly, Charles' comment on how the interview went.
Yep. They pointed out that he led the comp in missed tackles, which Kurt Capewell does, and asked him if Mam deserves to be there, but he was solid. That's like he's not going to answer that question. If he obviously answered well, but you know what I mean.
That to me would be just maybe a Blues media, just trying to poke a stick, you know, trying to get them off edge. So that's going to happen a little bit around Origin, and you can expect that, you know, that's the media 100%. Games that happen around Origin. So, you know, I find that actually pretty funny because that is just shit, you know, like that's shit media. Don't get me wrong. Because how is he supposed to answer that? But that's just Origin mind games through the media. It's the same as, you know, the Blues called out DCE for meeting with Ash Klein at trainings and shit like that. Is harmless because DC is 100% right. Refs would go there all the time, run through a training session with them to make sure that they're up to speed on the rules. But, you know, the Blues did that. And then that would have been in Ashley Klein's mind, like, oh, some of these 50-50 calls, I've got to really watch them now. Just, you know, so there's no truth behind it.
It's the game within the game, and it's always been happening, especially in State of Origin time. It's where, you know, in Australia, Queensland media has been doing the same for a long time. You know, obviously they called out Spencer Leniu before that last game, and we just didn't take it to him. And obviously now how that turned on against us. But let's say if we took it to him and it gave us an upper leg, like, you know, that media could have gone into his head in that sense. But then again, Spencer's a hard nut to crack in general overall. But
you don't give a fuck about the media, right?
On the first little point of that, though, like, this is the thing, like, yeah, Kurt Capewell misses the most tackles in a competition, but fuck, his line speed and his tackle tech is unreal. It's not like missed tackles shouldn't be the stat of like everyone saying he's a good defense player or a poor defensive player. Like, fuck, I've always hated that. I've always hated that.
That should only be really known if you're like
conceding line breaks or something like that.
Yeah, conceding line breaks or tries against you, you know what I mean? Or if you're just like got no line speed and getting fucking run over. But like if you're like getting up there to try and like most of his missed tackles would probably be coming off kick chase where he's getting beaten by the man, but he's the first one leading. And the dude's like 36 or something now. Like, give the man a break.
I know. It's a classic tale that always gets told because whenever people bring up like people's defense, it always goes to the missed tackle stat. But I think rugby league stats need to go a little bit deeper than that, and people need to search a little bit deeper than that and actually watch the game and not just go off of that. Like the stats round out a story, it never tells us full story.
Blatant errors probably, but yeah.
Blatant errors. All right, moving over to our team of the week, Bella. Who have you got at fullback this week?
I had Walshy, brother. You know, shout out to Walshy. Straight back in, and the Broncos fans are back riding him.
Yeah, I know. It always seems to be the way. We know it too well, Broncos fans, how hot and cold they can get. But people didn't know. Like, they were calling for Walshy's head before, but they were, what, 5 and something before, 5 and 8 maybe before was there.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, 5 out of 8. And then, you know, with him not there, they went on a mad losing streak. So he wasn't as bad as, like, you know, he wasn't performing Reece Walsh type, but come on, brother, you could be worse.
Exactly right.
Chance Nickel clock stack for me, my bro. I went back to back with Chancey. I thought that it wasn't just these run meters and what he produced in that sort of sense of the game, but his try savers kept us in that game over the weekend as well. You know, that big one on Hemi Nuele where he knocked the ball out of his hands was a big point in that game. And I've shouted to him. Sione Katoa trying to beat him on the outside. He wrapped him up. And I thought he was massive over the weekend.
He's so underrated. We touch on it every week. He's so underrated.
100%. Moving over to wingers of the week, brother.
I went Tommy Jenkins, and I went Jermaine Osako.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I went Tom Jenkins, and I went with looking at the Broncos in that game. I thought the pick of Josiah Karapani was a big one for Madge, and I think he definitely got it right in that game for sure. I thought it was a big standout in that game for him.
Yeah, I think so too, bro. Killer on debut, and he'll probably lock down that spot for a while now.
Yeah, 100%. Moving over to the centers, brother. Who was the standouts?
I went with Critter. Just massive performance again. That defense work on Iongi, bro. Like, it looked like for a split second, Iongi was going to score that, and then bang. Within 2 strides, Critter's got him over the sideline.
Unreal, bro. He's a freak.
Yeah.
And like when you touched on him working through his injuries and that too, I did want to point out, it looked like he picked up a stinger in that game at a moment. I looked like that maybe because he's had nerve damage in his shoulder. I was like, fuck, his shoulder's gone. And then he just kept playing through. It looked like he was completely fine. But he's been playing through nerve damage in his shoulder for majority of the season.
Yeah, he's just massive, bro. And to do that still under those injury clouds is insane. My other one was Katoni Staggs. You know, his rare performances for me these days, where he shows what he actually has got. It's few and far between, though.
I'm right there with you, bro. I'm right there with you. Tony Staggs, I thought he stood out against the Titans. Does need to do it consistently. Does need to do it against some of the bigger sides and stuff like that, right? Because obviously we all remember the Titans are in the wooden spoon race right now. So Broncos fans, just hold up a little bit. But incredible performance from him. And Herbie Farnworth was my other one there. I thought that he was a massive contributor and a massive scoreline there. And you know, both those, Herbie Farnworth and Jermaine Osako, as you pointed out, helped out my Supercoach team over the weekend. So shout out to those boys.
100% good move bringing Osako in.
Yeah, and if we had Tom Jenkins on still, bruz, fuck me.
Yeah, look, I didn't think he would be holding the spot still, but man, he deserves it.
100%. 6 and 7, our halves of the week, brother.
Well, my halfback is Jerome Hughes, and he's my player of the week. I'll throw that out now. He was absolutely outstanding on the weekend. No better. And then 6, bro, well, I had to go with Ethan Strange. I had to take off the biasness. Like, Ethan Strange was almost player of the week for me in general. He absolutely brained it on the weekend. But shout out to both our 5'8s, man. Birdo played absolutely outstanding, and Chanel played absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, I went, fuck that. Let's go bias, baby. I went Chanel Harris-Tavita, baby. But yeah, shout out to, as I said, like, Strange has just been this. He's been like this for the last couple of years now for the Raiders, and he's so young. He's still stepping into the 6 jersey. Incredible. So I totally agree with that point for you. I just wanted to shout out Chanel for a player that, you know, it's been touched on a little bit more now, which is great to see. Has been a guy that's kind of been overshadowed by, you know, Luke having a great season, Aaron Clark, you know, players like this. But Chanel's like had a very consistent season this season. That was one of his best games with the 2 tries, some of the big moments in that game. So shout out to Chanel. And Jerome Hughes was my 7. I kind of said to you at work, I think that Jerome Hughes had the best player in a game of the week. If we're going on halfback performances as a genuine halfback, I thought Isaiah Katoa came really close. Like, he was incredible in that game as well. So he was my closest one, but Jerome Hughes, he got my player of the week as well. Yeah,
it's hard to go past him, bro. He absolutely brained it. And a team full of superstars to stand out like that is insane.
Yeah, he's an absolute freak. Moving over to front row pairing, bro. Who we got up front?
I'm ending up with 4 every week for front rowers because there's been some massive front row performances. So I went with James Fisher-Harris and Max King. Again, probably a little biased, but both those guys absolutely killed it for me. And then I went Keon and Big Papa as well.
Yeah, Keon's been a standout for this whole period. He's been moved to the middle. I went Big Papa. I had had to go a big shout out for Big Papa in that game. And I went Dimitri Vaimwanga because I feel like, again, very similar. I just wanted to shout his name out to people. Lek has been this big, power ball, edge back rower. Everyone's been like, oh my God, Lecker. He's been consistent as fuck this season, Dimitri. And this game, he was on a different one, scoring a try, setting up Fisher's try. I thought it was unreal.
It's just building. The confidence is building, and you can see that to throw that pass to Fisher-Harris, that's confidence.
There's so many good middles right now, in really good form, which is so great to see. And as we see from Supercoach, some of the best scorers this year have all been middles, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very reliable spot to pick right now, and Supercoach is investing money there instead of the back line.
100%. It's year of the middle. Moving to number 9, bro. Who was your number 9?
I went with Harry Grant, brother.
Yeah, I was right there with you. I thought incredible performance. A couple of try assists in that game. Pretty much ran the storm around the park and got him in.
Yeah, not a lot of other great hooker performances on the weekend either for me.
No, I didn't really remember too many other standouts, in my opinion, but very good game from Harry Grant. Edge back rowers.
Yeah, this was no brainer. I locked these ones in early for me. It was Eli Katoa and Olakawatu, bro.
Yeah, see, me, this is a contentious one. I knew this was going to get brought up, but Olakawatu, 100%. Alex Toa, incredible and all that. I went Simi Sasongi. I was like, bro, he's a natural edge. Oh, and we have this argument all the time because I always do this, but he's a natural edge back rower. Incredible performance from that guy. And I just want a massive shout out to him because, yeah, he's got a lot of talent, that kid.
Yeah,
he's a rugby league player.
In the centers. He played center.
Oh, it's so much to where like I was like Santa Brody, I was like, no, I'm sure he played like, and he got pushed out late. And I rewatched the game. It was like 15 minutes into Molly went down. I was like, that's right. Yeah, he got pushed to the center.
I'll let Ash have it though. I'll let him have it.
Yeah, shout out to Brody. I love it. 13 of the week, bro.
Oh, Paddy, bro. Paddy Carrigan for me.
Yo, love it. I've just said and forget Aaron Clark right now. So
yeah, I don't even think you backspace that name, bro. You're just like, yeah, I'll leave that there. Permanent marker.
Yeah. Shout out to Aaron and a massive performance there. But Paddy, unreal performance over the weekend as well. Kick the Broncos back into gear. And you'd probably say looks better in a 13 jersey, whether there's too much of a difference. But like, yeah.
Nah. I think the difference was Jensen there, just a guy that would make a lot of tackles, and it wasn't so much on Payne and Paddy, and that could stretch their minutes as well.
Yeah, 100%. All right, moving over to our hit of the week. There's a lot of contenders in this one.
All right, take your pick, bro. I went with Montoya on Penasini, just absolutely banger. But there's 3 others, bro. But you give me your one first.
Yeah, my one was Skelton on Tungo. I thought that when he cut in from that edge, just made him cause an error as well. Massive moment.
Yeah, that was another one I noted. And a couple of others was Keely on Gutho. Gutho thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna beat this dude with my speed, and just got crunched. And then Max King on Russell. Like, I don't know what Russell did. He might have had a devil tattoo on him or something, but Max King thought, fuck this guy. Max
King was talking to all the boys in Origin camp and was like, oh, okay, so you got to rush out of the line and just dominate cunts now. All right, I can do that. Braz, what a shot. The last one I hit on is Jack Bostock too, on Nathan Lawson. Amazing shot there too. But yeah, quickly touch on what you were going to touch on.
No, I was just going to say Max King really wanted that starting jersey, bro. Like, he really, really wanted it.
Shout out to Jose, picked up on the devil tattoo comment. If you guys don't know, Max King is very religious. I love to see it, bro. Try of the week.
Mine was Birdo, bro. Like the timing and the read on that intercept from a scrum play is outstanding. Yeah, like for me, that had to be it.
Yeah, for me, so the story goes, right, I saw the hit of the week. I put it in early with Jack Bostock on Nathan Lawson, and then I saw the try over Nathan Lawson. I was just going to go, yeah, he can have both of them for sure. But then I saw Skelton's hit over the weekend, and that changed about 5 different times. But yeah, I went Jack Bostock over Nathan Lawson. That he just got sky high, went over the top of a sevens player, and he was like, bro, welcome to rugby league.
Did he get dropped as well this week, Lawson?
Oh, I'll double check, actually. I don't know.
I didn't see his name as Supercoach.
Nah, he's still there.
He's still there. I was going to say, I've seen Sloan's back, but I wasn't sure if that was just for Tui Pilotu being out again.
Sloan's back. Sionif Finau has been named on the reserve, so maybe it could be a late change there too. Who knows? Shout out to Nathan. Sad day for that man. We already said player of the week, so let's move over to our egg of the week, brother.
Yeah, egg of the week for me is super coaches that brung in Lehigh. Like, I understood a little bit of the hype, but I really didn't because I knew he wasn't a long-term fullback. If he was, then 100%, but I knew within a couple of weeks he'd be going back to the wing. But yeah, shout out to the big 0 and the amount of people that brung him in.
Oh, that's massive. I saw people do the double trade of Lawson and Lehigh. And there was another one. Tui Pilotu. Yeah. Oh, bro. Imagine if people captained Lehigh in the middle of that too. Craziness.
Oh, Jazzy, I normally pick a better video than this, but go hard, brother.
Yeah, not my easiest one, but we got it done. Oh, brother. My egg of the week was Adam O'Brien. I know this was early, Thursday night last week, but bro, shout out to Eeyore, man. Like, listening to his press conferences, bro, it's like, it's And then to see him fire up over that and call all the Newcastle fans they don't know rugby league and then backtrack on it on Saturday. Yeah.
I think they do know rugby league, brother, and they know your team's down the bottom and mud, so they're booing. That's pretty fair enough.
Yeah, and they're not booing your players, bro. They're booing you because some of the performances they're running out are under your name.
And not picking Jackson Hastings, and they finally fucking have. Like, bro, that's what they're booing for. Pick your best squad that you have advantage of.
Yeah, and I even know, win over the weekend, comeback win due to maybe them energized after getting booed after the halftime. Yeah, 100% right. But I can only see the Knights continuing their poor season, in my opinion. And he's definitely under pressure for me. Especially after 100%. that. After saying that to the fans, I would say the fans are pretty much off him now for sure.
I think so too. Sack him. The club's got to sack him. Shout out to Hosey. Yeah, I agree. That's definitely a fucking egg of the week right there as well.
Oh, I love it. Fox Sports, yeah. yeah, 100%. Well, talking about under pressure coaches in a very high pressure situation, may as well touch on our state of origin, bro. Queensland versus New South Wales. Again, I think it's so perfect that, both our teams top of the competition, we could talk in that sort of sense. But you also being a Blues fan, me being a Queensland fan, we can talk about this from both sides of the fence. So, massive ones. Let's start on the Maroons because definitely it's the biggest talking points out of all of them. Or do you want to touch on the Blues quickly and get that over and done with? Which way you want to go about it?
Whichever.
We'll touch on the Blues quickly, all right? So the news over the week coming in now, Brian Toto is dealing with a little bit of a hamstring niggle. He is due to play. Like apparently they're saying he's all right to play, but they're just being precaution. Your boy, Jacob Kiraz, maybe jumping in there. Not great for Supercoach, but shout out to Jacob Kiraz for being in the frame.
Yeah, not great for the Doggies to play this week still as well. We're already pretty hit hard by Origin. But shout out to Kiraz. He deserves it. He deserves to be in camp at least, and I'm glad he's going to soak up that experience. Getting to learn off Lomax and to get even better of timing his jump will be outstanding. The only thing for me is that, they won't move Lomax from that right wing. So he won't get to play outside Critter, which would be best suited. But yeah, hopefully Toto's all good. Hopefully it's just precautionary. And I'm just glad that Jake Kiraz is getting that experience. And I really hope that Toto plays Origin and Kiraz gets to come back to us.
And as I said to you before, bro, like when I see that name, I'm just like, bros, Brian Toto sucks to lose, man. Best winger in the competition. We all agree on that. But to bring in Jacob Kiraz off the back of that is like one of the most underrated wingers in the competition to where I don't think if you named a top 5, even though people rate him, I think people still forget about him when they rate about like those top wingers in the comp. He's an incredible talent. And I think that like what better guy come in and do a job there?
Oh, 100%. He's going to eat up pretty much the same amount of meters, same amount of tackle bust, but adds the threat in the air and an offload threat as well, which is a little bit of what Toto doesn't. But what he does come with is a bit of an error from time to time, pushing those offloads. But we haven't even seen much of that out of his game, whereas, Toto's lock and key.
Yep. 100%, bro. And the last little talking point in Origin coming up is obviously no Mitch Barnett out the season due to ACL. Again, I said this last week. We touch on that. I'm going to cry. But we continue on with Stefano Otikamanu getting a bench role and your boy Maxi King getting the starting role. You'd be obviously over the moon seeing Maxi get to this level now. And obviously Stefano coming in. Your thoughts on that move?
Look, when you got Bellamy in camp there to spray him if he does anything wrong, I'm all for it. Like he won't want to let down, 1, the state, and 2, he definitely won't want to let down Craig Bellamy because he'll hear about it for a lot longer than just the next day. He'll hear about it all next week at training, and then he'll cop it even more at training from Bellamy to get better. So I don't doubt he will do his job, but I do think Keon probably deserved that spot a little bit more. But again, I'm glad he's staying out for Supercoach.
I was just about to say, I'm a selfish boy, bro. I don't want Keon anywhere close to that side. Not just for my Queensland Maroons because he's been in amazing form, but my Supercoach team needs Keon Kalamatangi, I believe.
I'll be happy for the Doggies playing the Rabbits this week if he was 18th man instead of Burton, but
yeah, that would be absolutely. Just push Lindsay Smith up in there, yeah? Fuck Penrith. Just put Lindsay Smith at 18th man. He could do a job.
Do it.
All right, well, that's all the Blues done and dusted, right? It's the same story. When you're winning, you can obviously just continue to roll out a very dominant side. The Maroons, on the opposite side of things, the biggest news, the biggest talking point. May as well touch on the biggest one. our captain, DC, dropped for this game here. Your thoughts overall on this one? There's obviously a lot of news around out there, but yeah, you touch on this one, bro.
I think it's absolutely stupid. I don't think DC did anything wrong to be dropped. He didn't do any fault in that game. You can't finger point just him from that game. I understand Dearden is the future anyway, and it's like ripping a Band-Aid, but if you're ripping the Band-Aid, it should have been before game one. It should have been DC, we're going with a different approach this year. Last year didn't go too well. You've got distractions with your contract. We want to start looking at the future. Dearden, starting half, game one. Now you've done it after a loss in game one, which whether it was Dearden at half, DC at half, I didn't see that game going any different just from how dominant the Blues were with their ruck speed, their line speed, their back five, their front rowers. DC wasn't going to be able to hold to all that. So that's the only reason I think it's a little bit rough. Other than that, I 100% agree. Dearden is next man up to be that half. I just think it should have either been done at game one or right now you just say to DC, go out there, try and save this series. It's going to be your last year in Origin.
Yeah, and guys, if you watch my the last live stream after Origin, I was pretty much on that same sentiment and in general. And not that I fully agree with this move, but I'm a little bit, obviously, as a Queenslander, I sit on the side of like, well, 3 games losing on the trot. I can see that side of things. I can see why Billy went there about this move. Like, obviously, it doesn't look great after game one, especially a guy that has done a lot in the Origin arena for us, has been our captain as well. It's just not the best outlook in general. But as you said, like I feel like we are definitely under pressure. This is what happens with pressure sides. You make big decisions, and I think this is showing that Billy is just wanting to make a big decision to make a statement. There's something to happen, and the boys to change over and say, well, anyone at the moment, as we've been saying for this, it's been said that many times in the Queensland Maroons, like you don't own the jersey, right? But we used to, like, there is the sentiment that we always usually allow our legends just to play out what they need to and then drop them after the Origin or if they just don't return. It seems like it's a little bit now we're under pressure, and that due to coming to a series loss last year, and to some people would have thought a dominant series loss last year. A lot of people would argue that first game was rubbed out due to this end off. It could have been a Blues whitewash, and this year it's looking like it's going to probably go very similar. So that's why I look at Billy Slater and with these side of things and going, well, I can understand that move, and that's the sentiment of like, it didn't really work last year, let's be honest. Like in general, like that last game was probably the best thing we saw out of last year. Obviously the first game we did well with the send-off. The start this year at Suncorp Stadium, thinking that, Billy doesn't lose first games. This is what it does. It's first game that Billy's lost in game one. Yeah. And he's going to make moves from that.
Who was your 5'8" for all last season?
Tom Dearden.
So
yeah,
he's part of that 4 in a row technical losses as well.
Yeah, that's fair. That's definitely fair. I just think that I see other little, like, again, I don't think DC was the problem in that game. I did think that he didn't have a great game when there was opportunities to do so. I thought Munster did more of everything else around it. I thought Munster took over the kicking game. I thought Munster took over the big moments. Other than the first 20 minutes, I thought DC was really good in the first 20. Other than that, I thought he was non-existent. But I also agree with the fact, because I said it before as well, we got beat through the middle. That was the key part to this. And I don't think too many other halfbacks in the competition would have won that game with, the middle depth that we had there. So I think the other key was that, sorry?
Do you put it down to fatigue, though, from Cherry Evans? Because he was getting targeted from Angus Crichton, Lomax, Charles Mitt. All their hit-ups were directed at Cherry Evans, and it was Cherry Evans that had to make first contact. He didn't get a lot of support from his back row and defense there until after he was already bumped off in that tackle. And I think the same thing is going to happen to Dearden unless he can, well, he doesn't even have Nanai there now that he can just say, look, you got to help me here. He's got, I think, Catewell probably be on that edge now starting.
It'd be Ruben Cotter because I think Catewell, even for us, he plays left side.
All right. Well, Nanai normally plays left side, and he swapped to the right for Cotter to be on that left as well in last Origin. So
that's true.
Anyway,
that's true.
A couple of positional changes there, and I don't know if we see the same again. I know how exhausting it is to make a lot of tackles and then to have to back up and play. And I'm not obviously as fit as Tom did, and he's very fit, but tackling those 3 beasts 2-3 times a set and then expecting to get back up and do the same amount of work in attack, it's hard. Whereas Munster was a little bit fresher. He didn't have Liam Martin running at him all game. You know, Martin doesn't have a lot of carries. He's more so a defensive threat. So that's a point I've got there as well on why Cherry Evans didn't get involved as much.
Yeah, but see, for me, like I just sway on more the sentiment of like, you know, for me, he hasn't been, even in last series, he wasn't the big standout at all for us. That we already saw kind of the cracks in his game in general, especially defensively, right? Like we all know that defensively, DC is not the best half in the competition, and I think Tommy. His effort areas are always going to be there. Not to say Chez's isn't going to be there, but I liked the frame of like, I think that we're going to have an approach in this game that's going to be a little bit more run first and try to get, you know, a little bit more momentum and foot speed with quick play the ball, especially with your big forwards to try and get them more work. Whether that works out, this and that, like we're going to have to wait on the night to see if that even works out. Because after what we've seen for the last couple of series, there's not much really we can do in the fact of like really turning these forwards around. Like these boys that you have charging at us, as I continue to say, that's why it's so harsh on DC in this sense of where there's not much we can do there. But I also see the fact of it, rip the Band-Aid off, see if Tommy Dearden is going to be the one to spark it, and it could change this whole sentiment around if he gets a win on at Perth, right? And then we can all look at it and be like, not to say DC was the problem, because I don't think it is that way, but it's more of the fact of like, Billy's just gone to the boys now and said, enough is enough. We've lost 3 games on the trot. You know, could have easily been 4 games on the trot that we've lost here, and there's no difference to the side. I need to make a spark change in a big key position. And I think the other opposite end of it is getting Munster captain, you know, a C next to his name and seeing what Munster can do with that.
I don't like that move either. He's not even captain of his club.
Oh, I think he would do really well as a captain in Origin. I think he would take a new level. I really do. Because I think he's co-captain of his club with Harry Grant.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. I would have been leaning towards a Tino as captain.
See, I love Tino again, but would you argue, I know a lot of your arguments for that is an 80-minute player. And I know with the Warriors, we have front rowers and they rotate whoever's on the field and that. But I think because obviously Munster's out there for 80 minutes with the referee, I think that's the whole argument against that. Again, I don't agree with that thought, but I just think that he'll take a new level in that sort of sense of the word.
We'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah. And I think that's where it comes down to all this. Like, it seems like such a big move now. And again, if it goes wrong, 100%, it's going to be all for Billy for sure. But, you know, if Billy gets it right in this one, it really comes down to the night, right? It really does. Because I think there is arguments for DC not being there in times too, right? I think there is arguments to that.
Yeah, well, 100%. 100%. But you could obviously, in that losses last year, you could point the finger at a lot of Queensland players that weren't there. And again, in that game 1 this year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. The other big move that we did have here, obviously Kurt Capewell coming to the squad. Shout out to Kurt Capewell. Love to see it because I think he's been incredible for the Warriors this year. I think defensively he stepped up. I think that's a great one. Sucks to see Beau Fermor drop out. I agree with Corey Horsburgh coming into the squad, but no Corey Horsburgh in the 17 at the moment. That's the weird one for me.
Yeah, for me, I would be hitting straight away over Fodawaker or over Liero. And I probably won't say Liero because he's played, one Origin game now. I'll give him another crack. But over Mo Fodawaker, who's had plenty of opportunity, I would be going Horsburgh over him for sure.
Yeah, and because, like, we argued this, the Maroons, what did we miss in that game? A little bit of, like, mongrel, a little bit of, like, you know, fuck you in the middle. What does Corey Horsburgh bring to a side? All of that.
The redheadness. Everything about a redhead.
I want to see tears on the State of Origin stage. That's what I want to see.
That's passion.
Exactly.
Just don't let him throw a punch.
Don't let it throw a punch. I don't care. Throw a punch at Spencer Lenu and get knocked out. I don't care. I just want to see passion.
Where's Laban when you need him?
And with the Raiders having a bye, because I have a little bit of ink, like, I don't know who's going to come out, but would there be a chance of him being a late move with Billy Slater probably playing Smoke and Mirrors? Or do you think this is the way it's going to go?
Nah, he wouldn't play Smoke and Mirrors now when he's come out and made the changes he's made. Like he'll play it as is. And now that the media's kicked up a big stink a little bit about Carrigan and NI being dropped to the bench, like he'll just want to prove them wrong. He won't go, oh yeah, you're right, I'm going to swap it back. Like he's just going to run with it and he'll die on that sword. And I think Liero will be all right in the long term. It was his first game. He didn't offer a lot, but who really does ever in their first game?
Agreed.
especially, coming off the bench and trying to figure out how you can make a difference in a game, especially when, the tide was already running a long way in the Blues' favor. So, but for me, Mo Fotuaika would have been the change for me for Corey Horsburgh.
Yeah, 100%. And the last one, obviously, you just touched on it there, but looking at the bench for the Maroons in this one, Paddy Carrigan, and I don't really like to call it a dropping to the bench because I think New Age Rugby League is a bit different now. I don't look at the bench as a dropping sort of as per se. I think it's more of an impact play. Like we look at how vital Spencer Lenu's been for the New South Wales Blues and how he's been off the bench for the Penrith Panthers, and Connor Watson as well, all these players. Your thoughts on that move from Billy? As I said, like for me in general, it kind of shows the game plan of what we're going for here is more of like, we want to really target the middle part of the game and not have as big of a drop off with Tino and Paddy Carrigan both coming off in the game. Like we do remember in that first Origin game when Spencer, came on and all that, bullshit happened basically, when we kicked away from him, which I don't agree with. Both Tino and Paddy were pulled off of the field at that point. So we ran Lieru, Lindsay Collins and that. I think that's just more punch to come off the bench so we don't lose the step because I felt like the first 20 we competed, as soon as we pulled those boys off, we lost the step. I feel like it's keeping the momentum. But your thoughts on the opposite side?
Yeah, I just think now you run the risk of the game being over before Paddy gets into it. Whereas you see Paddy really set the platform for the Broncos, for Queensland in game one, where he kind of controlled Haas a little bit in that first stint. And it wasn't long until he did start running through and Tino to try and get the speed of Origin back under his belt as well, coming back off the layoff last year. But I don't know about Paddy being off the bench. I still would have liked that to be a Horsburgh or a Horsburgh start, maybe. I just think, now Tino's going to be working even harder to start that game and he's going to get completely blown out. If Paddy's going to be that impact player, are they going to kick to Spencer when Paddy's on now and he's going to have to be the man to take him on?
I think they're going to have to, especially after the uproar in first game one. I think that it's just really going to speak that they're going to have to go to Spencer and take their head off of Spencer. They're going to have to do that. I don't see any other way. I really don't. And I think that's the reason why they've got Nanai and Paddy Carrigan on the bench because our biggest hitter over that weekend was Jeremiah Nanai, even though he's on the opposite end of the field and all that. When we played, he got pushed to the right. I feel like that's probably what it is going to be more of a target when Spencer comes off that bench. It's going to be like, all right, Nanai, Paddy, you're just going to be the hit man. You're both fresh. Spencer's fresh. Let's go fresh for fresh and see how this goes.
Yeah, for me, the other change I would make is potentially Kurt Mann start at hooker and just get that first 15 minutes out the way where everything is relying on penalties, relying on defense, relying on meters. I would get him out there just to take the grunt out of the carries from Haas, Kingy, and then bring Harry Grant on after a good 15, 20 minutes at most, and then let him play with a bit of fatigue in the game. When you see Spencer come on, when you see Stefano come on, and try and identify those guys as defensive mislapses and Grant get out of hooker then and target those guys. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah, 100%, bro. I love that sentiment. I actually heard that a little bit early on today. Shout out to Chris just jumping into the chat. You totally missed our review of the doggies game. So, Brody, quickly get your piece in right now.
Nah, brother, you can watch it back. You show up late just like the Eels didn't show up at all.
Shout out to that. But yeah, I love that move. Kurt Mann, I reckon, he'd do a job pretty early on in the game. I also think that there's many ways you can play Kurt Mann, which we saw over the weekend. His impact during the middle period of the game is just as big, but I do love the move that Paddy getting Harry Grant, with a little bit more tired forwards, well, hopefully tired forwards again, if that all goes correctly, can be a major impact and that would help his game tenfold. The last little move I do want to touch on with you is, do you think Lindsay Collins stays on the bench to start the game? Mo Fotuaika stays as starting? That's the last one I want to get because I have a little bit of a inkling maybe there's going to be some changes here. There's got to be, I feel like.
Yeah, maybe. I think that's a good move as well. If it's not Horsburgh, then yeah, I don't think Mo should start. Or if Mo does start, I only see him being out there for 10 or 15 before Carrigan comes on. And just on Kurt Mann, I don't know if I like him coming on at hooker for Grant at some point. And I think that's obviously going to be the move, right? I'd rather if he's there to back Grant up at hooker, for me, I would start him and then bring Grant on. I wouldn't try and find a time to bring Grant off and Kurt Mann into hooker,
Yeah.
he's not going to have as big of an impact. And I just don't like it. I think maybe start him there, just for the defensive, early ball off the deck, yada yada, and then Grant to come in as your running hooker.
60.
When fatigue comes into the game and you don't really have that running threat at the hooker, it shows a difference. Whereas like the Blues have that Watson running threat out of hooker, and they got Robson out there just doing the tackling. So yeah, that's a little bit of a weird one there.
It's a great thought. Shout out to a Blues fan giving us a little bit of insights and maybe some game
we'll
plans.
see if Billy takes it, but I doubt it.
All right, Bella. Before we jump off of this one too, what happened here?
Shout out to Jazzy.
What did he say? Apparently, Rona's P2 favorite car. Jazzy, that was uncalled for, brother. That was uncalled for. I was gonna. I'm not gonna make any more jokes off the back of that because it's not gonna get PG. But anyway, quickly, bro, your score predictions. Obviously, I know where you're going to be sitting on because there's probably more chance that it's probably going to go this way. I'm still hanging on the tiniest bit of hope that we can change it around. I've seen Maroon sides do this before. But this is a very good Blues side, and I think there's been a lot of good points out there too. These guys are, especially their key members in the side. They're used to getting it done in grand finals. They're used to getting it done in big moments. Stephen Crichton stepped up. Their leadership for the sides at a new level, very similar to remind you in those early days Maroon sides. But your thoughts on this game? How's it going to go? How are you going to get it done?
Yeah, we'll do our score predictions, then I'll get to Jose before we jump over to the week ahead. But I'm going to go a big score in a game. I'm going to go 28-20 in favor of the Blues. I think there's a lot of points on offer at Perth. And I think Queensland will turn it around, but I think the Blues will just have enough.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, bro. I'm going to go the opposite end of that. I'm going to go a 26-18 to the Maroons. I think that, it's probably going to be a really good arm wrestle. Hopefully we can soak up the middle period of that game and find a little bit of points, strike when the iron's hot, which we have been struggling with there, and hopefully come off of it. But it's very hopeful. As I said, I'm a Maroons fan. All I got is hope, bro. And sometimes that is enough. That is all we need.
That's all you can hope for, eh? Hope.
Hey, that's it. I hope for my Warriors to get top 8 this year and look how we're doing.
That's true.
So, and a lot of people didn't see that coming, but this is going to be an uphill battle. And even I think every Maroon fan can see it this way too. I don't think any Maroon fans going up there and saying that we're going to dominate the Blues. We're not. It's going to be a tough uphill battle. And even if we put all our energy into this game, this third game is going to be really tough for us to replicate the same energy. And I think the Blues are in a real, they're in the driver's seat this year to win this series.
Yeah, I think so too, but it's theirs to lose.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, all the energy we're going to have to pull back to get a win in this game, it's going to take us out of that last game.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, moving over to the weekend of foot. Actually, do you want to touch on Jose's point here in the chat? Brody,
yeah.
I'm sorry if I missed it, but what's your thoughts on Reed Marnie? I dislike him, but I feel for him. Looks very awkward for him now at the club.
Look, I like Reed Marnie. I think he's a great player, great talent. He's a bit of mongrel. I just don't think he suits what Ciraldo wants at the Bulldogs and what they're building at the Bulldogs. And I think that's the only thing that's coming undone for him. Other than that, I like Reed Marnie. I know people don't like him. I think he's a talent for sure. But, I think the club's just going in a different direction. There's been a few games, even when we've won, where Reed Marnie has missed, crucial tackles or he's come up with blunder plays. And I think Ciraldo really does hold all of his players accountable for mistakes they make in games. And when they go back and watch a lot of tape over, I dare say that Reed Marnie's coming up in a lot of negatives. And then when you've got a guy like Bailey Hayward that has just come through and done a job in any position, the effort stays the same. I think he's going to be our future 9, and I love that move. I think they're just worried about Reed coming up with a bad move in a big game that cost us. And I think I trust in Ciraldo. It's that he knows what he's doing and what he wants his squad to look like. And I can't argue with his points with how we've gone last year into this year and where we come from 2-3 years ago. So, I think it's the right move for the future of the Dogs.
Yeah, to me, on that point, I think that Reed Marnie was a major key piece to getting you guys to this period. But as all sides, you do need to continue to move on. And like, as you said, I think he was great for instilling energy, great for instilling that mongrel into your side to start off of what, Serrato was trying to build with just being in the contest and staying in the contest. But there's also got to be a point where it's got to just add just a little bit like of a key, like maybe I think Bailey Hayward adds that a little bit, like the footy IQ Bailey Hayward plays with. Not to say Reed Money hasn't got it, but there's moments in the game where Reed, sometimes he can have some blunders here and there. So I think it'd be a great pickup for any other side out there, however that goes. But I think it was just honestly a key piece for a bridge period for the Dogs. And as a couple other players had to move on and they got better and better, I think that's the way the Doggies are going to uptrend.
I agree. And I think it's going to be similar to a Josh Adokar situation where he installed a lot of life into Doggies fans last year. He brought a lot of exciting moments, brought the fans back into it. And, he then didn't suit our system either because he just had concentration lapse in games and would be non-existent. And, we don't know how these guys train either. Maybe that plays into the effect on how we want to go with them down the line. So I think that's going to be much the same with Reed here. And I think he's going to be great at the next club he goes to. And I really hope he does go well at the next club. But I hope that, the Dogs are making the right move. But in Serrato, I do trust.
And what club do you think he needs him? Jose has just backed it up with. That's the first name that I thought of too. Yeah.
Straight away.
Yep. Gold Coast, maybe?
Yeah. Cowboys, Gold Coast, potentially Eels.
Yeah, shout out to Chris. Obviously, they got the Reed Money lookalike in Riley Smith. You probably want to stick with that, but maybe the 1-2 punch of Riley Smith and Reed Money. Imagine that.
Actually, I forgot they've got Riley Smith going all right. So, probably Cowboys losing Robson. And they haven't ruled it out either. They just ruled it out this year. So, maybe the Doggies will keep him, keep doing what we're doing, and move him on next year.
100%, bro. 100%. All right, let's move over to our weekend preview. The first game of the weekend. Obviously, not too many games to get through, guys. We will be touching on Supercoach straight after this as well. We got the Sharkies versus the Dragons at Shark Park. Can the Sharkies bounce back off their two big losses, especially their last week loss at Shark Park? No Kale Iro in this game due to a pec injury, but they get Ronaldo Mulatalo back, which is great to see. Shout out to BRODIE, always holding on to a spot. He just seems like one of those players this year, right? And as we touched on, Nathan Lawson holds on to his spot for the Dragons, but Corey Allen comes in for Valentine Holmes. Tyrell Sloan, also, I'm pretty sure he wasn't there last week from memory, or did he return last week? No, he wasn't, right? Yeah. Sweet. And we do see Sione Finn now there in the reserves too, guys, so keep an eye out there for team list changes. But your thoughts on this game? Do you go to Sharks on a bounce back here with the Dragons performance, or is this a 50-50 game?
On paper, bro, the Sharks should win this 13+. On form at the moment, flip your coin. I'm going to go Sharks 13+, but we'll see.
Yeah. Shane Flanagan against his old club, does that maybe change your thought in any sort of way? No?
Nah, I can't see it, brother.
Yeah, I'm probably right there with you. I think the Sharks need to bounce back after their embarrassment of last week. We're going to go Sharks 13+ at home.
I think so, brother. They have to.
They have to. All right, moving over to another game that could be 13+ as again. Shout out to Lockie. Is Lockie in the chat? I don't think he's in the chat, but maybe he'll rewatch this one after.
He doesn't support us.
He doesn't support the Titans anymore either. And he just watches our side. So shout out to Lockie.
He just hates us.
Yeah. But the Gold Coast Titans got the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. I said that so weirdly anyway. Sea Eagles.
Don't ever do that again.
Yeah, Seabus Super Stadium. Shout out to Skilled Park. Mo Fodawaker Cantino out of the lineup for the Titans. They will bring in. Shout out to Joshua Patson, who I think is going to get a jersey. Bro, this kid, I wouldn't say kid. I think he's 25 or something anyway. Very, very talented Ipswich Jets player. Keep an eye on him. But definitely a major uphill battle when you look at this Manly Seagull side. They get Cherry Evans still now. No origin for him. Mole Olakawatu, I think his baby is due soon too. So keep an eye on that as well.
Yeah, I think that was more so that he didn't have to go into camp so he could be there because, obviously they're going to be flying to Perth shortly. He will probably play, but it's more so just being able to be there if he needs to be there and not being in camp and then pull out. So.
And this big boy right here, Tom Trbojevic, is back into the lineup as well, bro. So your thoughts, how much, what's happened in this game?
20 plus, bro. Man of the match, Daly, Cherry Evans. Shout out to all the rookies that are coming through for the Titans. Their bench is full of them. And shout out to Jazzy.
Game.
You know, he's going back to the bench. I thought he's been one of Manly's best all year.
Agreed.
But I do love the impact that he's going to bring off the bench.
Yeah, I think Ethan Bullimore and Takiaho, I love that as being their front row pairing. But there's also the argument of Jakey getting up front, putting Jazzy in at 13, having one of those boys as punch off the bench. Ethan Bullimore punch off the bench like he has been used in the past. I reckon that's a good lineup.
Yeah,
but
you might see that in the future. But I think, Jazzy off the bench, we've seen that he's done it so many times.
Yeah, the Bald brothers. Shout out to Jazzy Tavunga. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Manly by a bit. Shout out to Lehigh, obviously out in the lineup as well. Unfortunately, as we know, Supercoach is out there, but he will be back sometime soon. So Manly by a lot there. All right, moving over to Newcastle Knights versus the Sydney Roosters at McDonald Jones Stadium in Newcastle. The outs for the Newcastle Knights here, Tyson Frizzell and Kalen Ponga. For the Roosters, a long list here. Angus Crichton, Connor Watson, Lindsay Collins, and Robert Toyer. Shout out to Spencer Lenu as well there in Origin. So there will be a lot of changes here, but shout out to Sammy Walker getting the 7 jersey now. He is back, ready to go. Dominic Young on the wing. And
Smith on the bench.
Yep, Sanders Smith on the bench. That's a big one for super coaches out there. Your thoughts on this game? Probably Roosters, but
yeah, I'm going to go the Roosters. If they beat Cronulla with this squad, they should be able to beat the Knights with this squad, in my opinion. That's a weird one that they got a young fella starting at hooker. I thought Zach Docker-Clay maybe would have went to hooker and Sanders Smith would have covered the bench hooker role. But the kid must be talented, and shout out to him for getting the step.
Sounds like there might be a couple more changes coming in this lineup because it just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Like Sanders starting on the bench and Hugo Savala. I kind of touched on this with you at work earlier. Maybe it's just an early play of like just defense on that side because Sandon and Sam Walker are both smaller bodies. But if you're looking for impact of both those guys in attacking side of football, Sanders Smith and Sammy Walker would be the better combination for me. But yeah.
Maybe Hugo will move to lock after 20 and you'll see Sandon go into that half role.
Yeah,
and Radley will move to an edge or up front.
We've seen Radley play hooker before. I don't like it, but we've seen that before too.
Well, that's not happening.
We're going to go Roosters by how much?
1-12. We'll call it a tight one.
All right, Roosters 1-12. I'm sure Fletcher Sharp's in for a big game here too, so watch out for that.
Hopefully Dylan Lucas as well.
Yeah, shout out. Hopefully. North Queensland Cowboys versus the Dolphins at Townsville. The Cowboys origin depleted as well. Look at the lineup there. Jeremiah Nanai, John Bateman, Reece Robson, Ruben Cotter, Tom Dearden, and Viliami Vailea out. And Hamiso and Maxi Plaff out for the Dolphins.
I just want to say that John Bateman is not in Origin and he will never be in Origin. He must be injured or something.
Yeah. And even Viliami Vailea as well. Yeah. I didn't mean to lump them all as Origin outs, but no. And Maxi Plaff also injured as well. It does suck to see. I'm pretty sure that Trey Fuller returns last weekend in Q Cup from memory. Maybe it's just going to take a couple more weeks before we get to see him back in first grade, right? Getting his fitness right. But Jake Alvarello keeps that fullback jersey. But I wouldn't be surprised early in the future I will get to see Trey Fuller back into a lineup here soon.
Maybe, brother. I think it just worked so well for them last game.
Yeah. I don't think too many other changes are going to be happening here. So this is what we're going to look at here. Jason Taumalolo comes back for the Cowboys, which is a great in for them. This could go a couple of different ways. Scotty Drinkwater there. Cowboys at home could be tight, but the Dolphins been in good form with Isaiah Katoa. So what are you thinking here?
Shout out to Jake Clifford, who would never play NRL again this year in that 7 jersey. So just want to throw that one in there.
That's crazy.
He's back. Todd Payton.
He's back.
But for me, I can't go against the Dolphins' form at the moment. And I think they'll be less impacted if you're looking at who's out for Origin compared to who's in. I'm going to go Dolphins 1-12.
Shout out to the Cowboys, though. They still string together a decent little squad here, even with the Origin outs. It's just 100%. There's such an up and down side this year where the Dolphins have kind of showed it.
Massive.
Yeah, that's a massive one. He's just getting back into fitness. I would have loved to see him back in Origin, but Robert Toya did a job there. But yeah, I'm going to go to Dolphins in a close one here. I think 1-12. I reckon it's going to be one of those classic little shootouts. And I think the Dolphins will just come out ahead.
I think so too, brother.
Yeah, Isaiah Qatar, maybe man of the match. We'll have to wait and see.
And it's probably game of the round as well, that one, I reckon.
Yeah.
With what we got to choose from.
Yeah, I felt like if this was full strength, this would have been close up for a game of the round as well. With Latrell and all that back, but he's 40. Out. Shout out to the Rabbitohs versing the Doggies at a core stadium. Obviously big outs here for the Rabbitohs. Cody Walker out again, which sucks to see. Latrell Mitchell out due to Origin duties. Kurt Mann, Matty Burton, Max King, and Stephen Crichton all also in the Origin frame, which sucks for your Doggies. Karaz. And maybe Karaz, yes, that's another name to put up there. But shout out to Lockie Galvin getting that 6 jersey there. We get to see him getting a lot more time in that doggy system. And Jai Gray coming in a fullback for the Rabbitohs. So how are you looking in this lineup here?
Yeah, I think, unfortunately for Cody Walker, just touching on it, I think this is going to be the last season we see Cody Walker.
Sucks, bro.
I think the injuries are just too much for him now, and I dare say we'll probably see him pull the pin at the end of the season if he makes it that far. And shout out to Jacob Preston back, massive. Yeah, keen for this one. I'm going to go the Doggies. I reckon we'll get it done 13+ late.
Yep. I'm going to go to Dogs 1-12 in this one. I think that it's just... there's the ability for 13+. I'm really excited to see Lockie Galvin within the system, right? Like, the Warriors, we play a real structured style, very similar to you guys. But when like the younger boys starting to open up a little bit, they do like let off the leash a little, a tad. I think Lockie Galvin, just because his energy, the way he plays his football, I'm excited to see how he plays within the system framework and whether he can bust open, and just open things up a little bit more, which would be really cool to see. So I'm just going to go Doggies 1-12 just to play it safe there. But I think for me, a big one is Jacob Preston back in the lineup. If you didn't have Presto with all the Origin outs, it'd be, for sure, 1-12.
Shout out to Josh Curran as well, Mr. Fix-It, and Bailey Hayward as well, Mr. Fix-It.
Shout out. And Campbell Graham has been named in reserves here.
Yeah, he's still got his back spasms from last week. So,
yeah.
Hopefully he doesn't play.
Yeah, hopefully he's okay in general. We know the injury runs that he's going through, but yeah, you're right. He's damaging us.
Yeah. I'm a bit worried if he plays.
I'm actually really lucky. I was like giving him a little bit of a look over the weekend too, just looking at him like, would he be a Supercoach player sometime soon? But I think injuries has pulled me away from Campbell Graham lately. So
yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. All right, moving over to us. Anything more you want to touch on last of all with the previews and that?
That's all for me, brother.
I love it. Moving over to Supercoach, guys. If you got all your questions, make sure you chuck them into the chat. Any questions on your trades and stuff, guys, we'll run out the rest of the show for the last 10 or so minutes. And also, Jose, shout out to, the new show for Sean Johnson. Use code LegalLounge for 40% off of Sky Sports for 4 months for all you New Zealand viewers out there. That's definitely a good little deal that you got going on. Hopefully, it would have been cool if that show was on KO. I would love to see Shawnee in his element there.
Maybe one day.
We'll get to see a ton of clips everywhere, though. That would be great to see. Moving over to our Down Unders League. Shout out to Liam, just dominating our league at the top there. All look there, that 18,000 points. Incredible. But where is your side here, brother? And there we are.
A long way down, bro.
Well, not like that. All right, so here we go. 1,377 for my boys, 1,243 for Brodie's boys. Your thoughts on your performance over the weekend? Who is your shiners and who is your bludgers?
All in all, not a bad performance. I was a little bit hard done by Tamale with the 4 points and getting injured, or 3 points even. And then it was just a couple of mediocre scores, like Mahami Stewart's and Morgan Smitty's that I'm just kind of holding due to some guys on buys and to just get through this Origin period. I'm not handling it too well. And as soon as you fuck up with the captaincy option, you're up shit creek.
Bro, yeah, that was a big one this week. I got very lucky. I put on Homole Olakawatu, going for a big score there. Nathan Cleary was my other option, which Brodie was going with Nathan Cleary. Unfortunately, he saw the opposite end of that. So it's such a big play captaincy these days. And yeah, unfortunately, I thought Nathan Cleary was going to have a blinder as well. So
Jaden Campbell let you down.
Yeah, JC was definitely the guy that let me down. 27 points there, which sucks being my trade in from last week as well. I think I moved a couple of pieces for him.
Doesn't it?
Yep. As soon as you trade a man in, it's like a fresh guy coming off the bench and dropping the ball. It really is.
Yeah, that sums it up, bro. But at least you weren't alone on that move. A lot of people brung in JC last week.
And just quickly, round 14 points. We had Thomas Jenkins lead the 14 points with 151. Crazy. That's big from him. Bigger notable ones. Shout out to Ethan Strange, knocking out 142 as well. Yeah, that's huge. Yeah. Jerome Hughes, we know. Jermaine Asako, great one for me. I got there. Katoni Staggs, 123. Keon, 119. We know what he brings. Fletcher Sharp just continuing to do the damn thing. I feel like he's probably one of my biggest misses this year.
Yeah, 100%. I can't argue that. I didn't think he would be able to string together consistency like that, but the dude is just there for any little line break, any half break. But yeah, he does have a 35 and a 45 in him, but when he goes hard. So
100%. So especially when he goes put back to fullback, I think that's a major key for them. But quickly moving over to my trades for the week. At the moment, these aren't locked in stone, but this is some stuff I'm playing with right now. So I got San Rami and Isaac Tungo both on the buy. Tungo has been a little bit disappointing for me for a little bit of a pod play I played with, which sucks. I expected a little bit more out of him. I think he went really well. My first week I got him with 80, and then since then he went 40, 30s and just sitting there. But San Rami's done enough to get me my cash. I went him to Talakai to free up a little bit of cash as well. So when I do this move, I still got cash in the bank, and I've gone Tungo to Ruben Garrett because I think either one of those Seagulls boys are good to get on. DCE is a big one to bring in this week. So he's my other little look if I can make other trades or whatever I can sort out for DCE this week as well. But your thoughts on the trade here at the moment?
Yeah, I like them, bro. I like them. It really strengthens your squad with Garrick for the run home. And you're moving just on middle ground guys that you were just kind of on to make cash and through this little period. So, and now you're downgrading to a cheapie that's always going to be there in Talakai and picking up a gun for your run home. Are you thinking about using a third trade this week?
No, I'm trying to keep it save it. When I talk about DCE, it was more of like if I erase the trades that I've done now and just go DCE over everything. But I'm thinking of holding on the Garrick trade because I do think that Garrick's for me is a season-long hold. I think DCE will be a point for a lot of people that they're going from Nathan Cleary and they're going to go back again. So that's another trade they're going to have to trade in where I'm curious. I'm just going to hold in on Ruben Garrick, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Or you could look at a DC as your flex to get through Origin because I think he will go through Origin now, but he does have 2 buys coming up still in Origin.
Yeah, I could possibly still do it if I go Campbell to Dewey to DCE with that move at flex. But
could be a little pod play to boost up your scoring through this Origin period.
Yeah, just adding more ideas to my head, bro. And you know what Supercoach is? I'm going to be sitting in the toilet at work and just doing trades left, right, and center. It's fucked, man. It's fucked. But my plays for this week, guys, I think at the moment I've got 14 off the top of my head. I'll just quickly check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I'll have around about that anyway. But this week I'm looking at
past 6 guys, so don't judge.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to Nate Diaz. But I've gone Ruben Garrett. I just thought that was a horrible thing to listen to, as me counting my numbers that I've got this week. Just believe in me, guys. I think I got 13 for sure and upwards of that. But I've gone Ruben Garrett as a vice captain this week because I think we all agree he's probably going to go big and he'll be my early play for a free vice captain loop. But Teddy is my captaincy play right now. I got a couple other options like a Herbie Farnworth or something like that, but I think I might hold on to Teddy as just a consistent play. But your thoughts there?
Yeah, I like it, bro. And I'm pretty sure Manly plays second. They don't play first, but they play second. And obviously you got plenty of VC loop options with guys not playing. The other one for me was potentially a Nico Hines as vice captain. But I feel like the vice captain choice is a lot more pressure than the captain choice these days because if you get it right with your vice captain, you can be stress-free. Whereas if you get it wrong with your vice captain, you start questioning, fuck, my captain, who do I want it to actually be?
Which unfortunately happens to you over the weekend, right? Like, when you're stuck with kind of Nathan Cleary and you're kind of going, fuck, like, what can I do there? I got very lucky with Ola Kawatu. I was very happy with that.
Yeah, well, looking at it, I should have took the 82 of Garrick now, but I just thought Cleary would have performed something. But I should have also looked at it aside that Luai knew what Cleary was going to dish out, and mark up on him like
targeted
he
him.
did. So,
Yeah.
well, you live and you learn. I probably should even just went Key on as a set and forget. That dude's been ridiculous.
Oh, it's been unreal. So hopefully he continues that on. My reserves this week also, Hiroti, Lucas there, sitting there, Talakai and Hubner.
I think you have a lot more than 13, brother.
Yeah, I'm pretty set, bro. I'm pretty sure it was like 14, maybe the Talakai move. Maybe it's up to 15 now. I might do another count later on, guys, if you really want to know. But I don't want to count in your ear like I did before. And who knows, I might say some number that's not even a number.
Oh, shout out to Ash and shout out to Cabo High.
Shout out to Braden Trindle. He's not Cabo High, but Cabo, baby.
Oh, Tans, you trade up, but come back to the real deal, eh?
What's this? What did Tans do? Oh, she went back for SJ's show. Oh, it's all right, Tans. Yeah. I understand. You know, are we good as you don't? He holds you to high standard, Tans. What other questions we got in there, bro? Well, before we jump over to your team.
Yeah, the UFC from Hosier. Look, expected. I really hoped O'Malley could get the job done, but very expected that Merab. I didn't think he would be able to sub him. I thought it was just going to be another decision. And O'Malley did really have his chances. He really tested Merab's chin by, looking like he was dropping away and then stepping back with some big punches. But Merab just ate it, bro. Kept coming. Kayla Harris, no surprise at all there.
Beast.
The one for me that was surprising was Paddy Mix just getting dominated. It really does show the difference of UFC to Bellator. I thought if one was going to be wrong, it was going to be this one where a Bellator guy would come over and dominate, but got it wrong.
I rate Patchy Mix too. When he was in Bellator, he was an unreal fighter there. And when I saw that he's had the opportunity in the UFC, I was very curious to see how that played out. But yeah, that was a disappointment in that one for sure. But yeah, shout out to Jazzy as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you also to Tans. We're wrapping up very, very shortly as well. The quick one I did want to touch on before we jump over to you as well. I think Jose said his trades up here. He traded out Hines and Blake Wilson for Isaiah Qatar and Herbie Farmworth. Your thoughts on that move?
Oh, I do like it. I think the Dolphins maybe don't play the last bye round though. So just be mindful on your players there. But yeah, can't go against the form that those two guys are in compared to, Blake Wilson, he's playing this week, but he's not consistently there. And Hines, well, I don't blame you right now for wanting to trade him out. So I like him. I like the moves.
Agreed. And quickly here on Tahi, I went Brown to Katoa and Lawson for the Raider Monowave.
Tamale. Yeah, look, I like the Lawson play because I'm pretty sure he will be set and forget now as a cheapy option there at the Dragons, and he should be able to bank some cash soon. But I do love the downgrade there to free up a lot of cash. And yeah, Brown to Katoa, I've expected a bit more out of Brown recently, and it's not there. And Isaiah Katoa, man, is looking like potentially halfback of the year, right behind Luke Metcalf. Jump on him.
And quickly before I say this, I don't get it wrong. It's Dylan Brown, right? He's talking about Dylan Brown there. That's the only guy I was thinking of. Yeah. Bro, that suspension, brother.
Yeah, we didn't touch on that, but that was a fucking joke, in my opinion. Anyway, I'm not going to get into it.
We read it enough tonight.
I'm not getting into the Broncos forward passes, and I'm not getting into the suspension here. So we're going to move on to my Supercoach team and call it a night.
Exactly right. Let's quickly do that, bro. Your trades this week, you got Britton Nikota for Hamish Stewart and Tom Trbojevic for Robert Toya. A couple of great moves there. Explain your moves there, your thought process. Tom Trbojevic, definitely with all the injuries, there's a little bit of risk there, but there's a lot of upside there too.
Yeah, look, this one for me, I wasn't Hamish Stewart that I was trading out. He wasn't the one in mind for me. It was going to be a Tamale or a Morgan Smithies. But my hand has been forced here because Hamish Stewart's been demoted to the bench and I don't want him to drop any cash. And Nikora, I've been hesitant to touch him this year because of the decline he's been on in stats. But a guy with the caliber of Nikora at 4 in the 4s at 490, it's a no-brainer for me. So I'm taking that. And I'm holding Tamale and Morgan Smithy still, even though Tamale's out for now. He's not going to drop any cash. Moving on Robert Toya because his break-even for the next game after Origin is a lot. And I'm taking the gamble on Tom Trbojevic. I think he's in for a massive week.
And if it goes bang, bro, you're definitely going to be on it for sure. I've seen a lot of people go DCE's route. And this guy at 516K for a guy that can get upwards of 150s and stuff when he's on
a been a million. Game. He's been at a million player before, so.
Yep, exactly. So he's definitely a good opportunity there. Vice captaincy as well. That is a set and forget if he is on, bro. That's you're looping that for sure. And the backup there, James Tedesco, I like for sure. You already had Ruben Garrick. You got your Jacob Carraz. Hopefully he plays. He should play, which should be gun. That back line is juicy as fuck. Ronaldo returns this week as well. So hopefully he can boost the score before you maybe look at trading him out.
Yeah, hopefully it just becomes a season long there for me. Hopefully the Sharks can get something going. But yeah, for now it's just a through Origin thing.
Are you going to count the numbers that you have live on stream, or do you know off the top of your
head? I have a cheat sheet.
1, 2, 3.
I have a cheat sheet.
Shout out
to
Brody.
My shit dated.
Yeah, 100%. Shout out to Caboolture High.
But yeah, look at that cash influx there. Ready to go on some big moves after Origin, boys.
100%. You could pretty much you could get any premium player you want after this period, and you already got some really nice pieces there. So Brodie's run home is going to be looking very, very nice. I think we're both in really good spots at the moment, which is great to see.
Yeah, 100%. You're in a lot better than me because you've gotten the upper hand on some points there. And I've tried a couple of little pod plays and haven't quite gone my way. But my run home with the cash there that I've got ready to go, I'm hoping to play catch up real quick.
Knowing this season, bro, it's only going to take a couple of big scores out of you, and you're going to be jumping back up those ranks for sure. So you're going to have to watch my ass, especially in that down unders comp. Hopefully, Liam's better watch his ass. We're coming for you, brother.
Oh, bro, I don't think we're catching him, but
no
especially because he keeps jacking our moves.
Yeah, shout out to Liam there. Also, quickly before we go, I want to touch on Tans. I got rid of Tamale, got Gola and Flickliero for Lemuelu, got Goni Nikolima and let Taulangi go.
I like Kola. He's going to make a fair bit of cash. I only worry when he's in the centers if he will get as much accolades as fullback.
Agreed. Yep. I'll write down that track with ya. And I think that is it for us tonight, my bro. Anything more you want to touch on before we jet off?
Nah, that is it for me. Time to go for a feed.
Yeah, for sure. Good luck to your doggies over this weekend, brother. And good luck to all your sides out there, guys. Obviously, you're all Warriors fans. If you're Warriors fans out there, kick back, relax, and watch some footy this weekend.
Enjoy the bye, my friends.
All right. Take it easy, guys. Have a good weekend. Shout out to all you guys tuning in week in, week out. And we'll see you next week with some more reviews, previews, and Origin slander, I reckon.
Beautiful. Can't wait.
Later, guys. Take it easy.
See yous.